actually you can embrace change, face fear, and inspire others. Dorien Morin would know. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience, curiosity, and stepping into the unknown with both determination and confidence. From immigrating to the US from the Netherlands at 18 to becoming a sought-after social media strategist and coach, Dorien knows how important it is to embrace who you are, take bold steps, one at a time. In this episode, Dorien will share how leaving her home country at 18 shaped her adaptability and willingness to take risks. And then her decision at 40 years old to embrace a new career in social media management, starting from scratch, literally with taking a course and turning it into a thriving business. She'll talk about how she helps founders, especially women, overcome fears about visibility, vulnerability, and embracing their authenticity through social media. And she'll get into why masterminds, accountability partners, and putting yourself in the right environment at the right time are absolute game changers for personal and professional growth. Dorien's story is a powerful reminder that it is never too late to start something new and never too early to be brave, and that the right support and the right mindset can help you overcome any challenge. I'm Lindsay Chepkema, and this is Actually I Can. Hi, Dorien.
Hi, Lindsay.
I'm so glad that you're here. We were just catching up a little bit before we started recording because we don't know each other very well. We're going to be on each other's shows, but we were introduced through a shared friend of ours, Kate DeLeo, and we were at Inbound, and we started talking about lots of things, both personal and professional. And so as I started, I got the idea to do this show. You were top of mind right off the bat. And it's funny because this is all about moments where we were told we couldn't, and we said, actually I can. And I knew nothing about your story until 30 seconds ago when you were like, I have a story for you. So yes. I had a feeling, but Dorien, why don't you, jump right into it? What was a time, one of, I'm sure as many, that you kind of looked at said, actually, I can do this and I will, and watch me.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of big moments, but I am an immigrant. I immigrated at age 18, was an au pair in Boston, met my husband there, and then decided to stay. Basically 2/3 of my life I've now been in the US.
Yes,
which is
from
the Netherlands.
The Netherlands. And
from the Netherlands.
You picked up my my badge at Inbound and looked at Chepkema, and you're like, "Oh, Chepkema, is that from Friesland?" And I was like, yes. You must be Dutch.
Yes.
That doesn't happen often to me.
Yes. No, it's funny because those of you listening, watching, any Dutch name that ends with ma means, it's from Friesland, which is a part of the Netherlands. And that's where my whole family lives. And I can't claim that I'm Frisian, but I was an immigrant there when I was age 10. And but that's really, I claim it as my hometown. So absolutely. So that's one of the big defining moments, going out on my own, moving to a new country, not really having any money, not having a career at that point, without really realizing, deciding not to go to college, right? My husband was in college when we met, getting married really young, and then staying together, and then, raising a family. So the next big moment came at age 40. Imagine Dorien walking into the elementary school with her fourth child, first day of kindergarten. There's all kinds of crying parents, and I'm walking out of there with a skip and a hop, like, yes. And then I got home and I had 7 hours to kill. I had been a nanny for almost 10 years, an au pair, a nanny for almost 10 years, raised my own kids. And I had, 2 in elementary school, 1 in middle school, 1 in high school at that point, I think, maybe 2 in middle school. But I was like, what am I going to do with 7 hours a day? I initially worked as a merchandiser for about 9 months to a year. I made $7,000 in all that time. Not very impressive. Had to put a lot of miles on my car and decided that I wasn't going to do that. That wasn't going to be worth my time, especially since then I had to pay my oldest son to babysit during the summer months because, now I have 4 kids at home and I'm still trying to do that. So I was looking for something new. And actually my husband said, why don't you take this social media course? I, at that point, was on LinkedIn. I was not on Facebook. I was not on Twitter. Barely. I don't even think I owned a computer. We had a family computer. But I took this online course, social media management, and really liked it and said, I think I can do this. And then I immediately said, I know I can do this. So I changed my LinkedIn header to social media manager. I started networking on LinkedIn, and within a couple weeks, a local charity reached out and said, hey, this new social media, what do you know about it? And I said, well, I just took this course and I can help you. They were doing a yearly golf tournament. And at that point, they were making like $5,000 for the Wounded Warrior Project once a year. And they said, but we can't pay you. So I'm like, okay, how about you give me a really good name? Because at that point, I had neither credentials nor credibility, right? I had no college degree, no work history at all in the US. And so they did. They made me social media director. I ended up staying with them for 3 years. And the last tournament I helped them with, I think netted like 80,000. So that was really a big jump. So reaching out to sponsors. But what that allowed me to do was go out in the community. I was living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, go out in the community, connect with business owners to ask them to sponsor, but also to network. And that's really how I kickstart this new career as a social media manager. And the other story that I was just telling you, so I just finished this course. Now I'm social media director for this local charity. But I was connected with business owners who were like, well, what's Twitter? How does this all work? So I was like, I'll teach you. So I rented a room at a local community college. It cost me like $100 to rent the room. So the day that I'm walking out with this check, and my husband was, because my business was under his business at that point, under his LLC. And so I have this $100 check and he goes, so you're going to go teach people what you just learned? I'm like, yeah, of course. That can help them in their business.
Fresh in my mind now. Why would I wait?
I think I made $20 for 3 hours because I think there were like 6 people who showed up and gave me $20 each to teach. And, but it's how I got started. And I think at that point, I just didn't know what I didn't know. So there was really very little fear. I didn't have a preconceived notion on how to run a business or how to conduct myself, how to do training. I just taught the people, the business owners, the way I would teach my children, and how I've taught everything in my life. So it went well and grown my business since then. The next big jump that my business made was during the COVID era, where I stayed a freelancer, business owner, but I'm a freelancer. I joined other people's teams. And so the next big jump was a lot of marketing departments kind of shut down. And so they still needed somebody. And this was a great time for me to jump into several different teams where they couldn't afford the whole marketing department, but they wanted to keep the lights on. And that's the year that I jumped a huge jump in income and I started making 6 figures. So 2020. So it took me quite a while to get there. But that was another moment where I was like, you want me to do all of that? Sure, I can. And then I figured it out.
I love that. Okay. So thank you for sharing. There's so much there. There's some of the things that stand out to me are just the faith in yourself and your ability to figure it out. And I think I'm curious too, because I know you work with lots of people, you speak to lots of people, you talk to lots of people, you have your own show, you're constantly talking to people about something that I know a lot of people are excited about and also scared of, social media. And you do a lot of video. People are very freaked out about video. And so I'm curious your observations around those, reflecting on yourself and as you talk to others, the power of being naive, and not knowing what you don't know and keeping it simple and just saying, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to listen to all the voices. I'm not going to to overcomplicate it and think about all the things that could happen versus now that you've been doing this for a while and having the power of hindsight and knowledge and expertise. Like, talk to me a little bit about that. And like,
I love that. The power of being naive. That is actually how I got married at age 19 and stayed in this country.
That seems to have worked out well also.
It did. I grew up in a really religious household in a Christian Reformed church in the Netherlands. And so we're very sheltered. I come from a huge family. We were kind of the outside, not the outsiders of the family, but the ones that lived far away, like an hour away. So far away from the hometown where everybody else grew up. I have 70 something first cousins. My father was one of 9. My mom is one of 14. So lots and lots of family. And so pretty sheltered. My parents had 5 kids. My dad had been military, and there wasn't a whole lot of extra money with 5 kids. If you know anything about the Netherlands, you do, Lindsay, but other people might not. It is a socialist country. It's a democratic socialist country. So basically, a lot of the salaries are similar, right? When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, there weren't a lot of people who were making a lot of money, and there weren't a lot of people who didn't have enough money. That has changed in the last 40 years or so. But at that time, everybody kind of had the same income. Well, my parents chose to have 5 children. So the income that serves a family of 2 kids versus the income that serves a family of 5 kids is a huge difference. That's why, we didn't travel. We didn't get to go out into the world and do those things, but we had a lot of kids. So, the government takes care of families that have more kids. You get a child allowance, and there's, we never were short of money, but we never had extra money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of shaped me and being that naive person. Now, I did want to go out into the world, so being an au pair was a way for me to make that happen.
My parents that's pretty brave.
Afford it. Didn't feel very brave. And funny story, I did go with, my sister came with me as an au pair, and another friend from Friesland. So there were 3 of us. And once we landed, as I call it, in Boston, that was a time before cell phones, before email. So I met a lot of other foreign au pairs in the city. And Boston is, you now live in Boston. It was a fantastic city to be in when you're 18 and you've never been anywhere in the world. It was doable. It was travel. We were able to travel. We were able to meet up in the city and explore, and some of the best times of my life. So I wouldn't call it brave. I would definitely call it naive, thinking that we knew everything, but we didn't. But yeah, one of the things that I did get, though, from my faith and my upbringing is that I've never really been scared. I've never been scared of life, of things. I had very stable upbringing. I wasn't worried. I have no anxiety. I do things because I know I can. I had good support. My parents let me and my sister both go. We were 18 and 19 as au pairs. And they said, we've taught you everything we think you need to know to go out into the world. And we're here to catch you if you fall, but good luck. And I think that there's a lot of parents who don't do that, right? Who see all the trouble in the world ahead. And especially now, we're a lot later in the world, and, there's a lot more danger out there, and there's a lot more danger that we know about because of the internet. But it's definitely in the Netherlands, the upbringing is you teach your children all kind of at the same time. It's a cultural thing. Everybody in kindergarten has to learn how to tie the shoes, or you literally can't graduate to first grade. At the time that I was living there, everybody in 2nd and 3rd grade got school swimming. Everybody had to learn how to swim. You actually get a swimming diploma, or you can't swim in a public pool, right? So then when you're in 6th grade, everybody learns traffic rules and has to learn how to ride a bike into the city, because the high schools are in the city and you're supposed to ride your bike. So you get a traffic
life
certificate. Yeah. So we kind of were prepared for all those things all at the same time with our peers, and kind of everybody went through that. So by the time I was 11, I took a 3-hour train ride by myself to visit friends. I was 10 years old and went to get my haircut. My mom just gave me some cash and I would get my haircut. And I was a lot of independent early, but everybody was.
Yeah.
So I do think that has helped me as an immigrant, as, somebody who, my husband and I were all alone when we raised our 4 kids. We didn't have any family nearby. His family was far away as well. And so, if there was a problem, I had to solve it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. And I say, I mean, like I threw the word like naive out there because, which gets such a bad rap. It's often coupled with like, doesn't know what they're doing, and like actually redefines the word, because the word is like, don't know what you don't know. Right.
Right.
And I think quite often it gets paired with like, oh, you do know, but you're not, whatever. But I think there's a lot of power in not knowing what you don't know yet, because you're bold and you're brave, and we are so crippled by fear. And when you don't know that there's something to be afraid of, you're so much braver. I mean, like literally you were like, I don't know. I just came to the US and I was an au pair and it was fine. I started my first business. I was, doing solopreneur freelance things. I had, infant twins and a 2-year-old. I didn't know what I didn't know. I was like, I'm just gonna do this myself. And I tell you what, it was a lot scarier the second and third time I started a business, because I knew then. And so like, how does that show up for you now as you are an expert? Like you are going around and speaking and helping and teaching and guiding people that don't know what they don't know. And so is that something you think about very often, or not? Like, how do you think that has shaped you?
I do. I think it, also my years of being in social media, but all the years prior as a volunteer in the community, as an active member in society, it's prepared me well, because I think there's a lot of empathy. And I think, in social media, there's this big gap between the young people, Gen Z, who I love, who my kids are Gen Z, except the oldest one, he's a millennial, but between what they know and what they have experienced in life. And so you can have a Gen Z social media manager who knows the ins and the outs. And for example, I love the team that Kamala has right now, and it's just amazing, but they don't necessarily have the wisdom and the empathy and the understanding of how the world goes around. And when I was 40 and I started the business, that I think really helped me. I have been in the community in Myrtle Beach for 11 years before I joined the business community in Myrtle Beach. Now, it was special. That's all I can say as a female immigrant, to be in the South and enter the business world. It was different than I expected it to be. And it certainly is there. I live in Vermont now, for those who are listening and watching. I'm in New England. It's a little different for a business owner here than it was there. And so I was able to empathize, read between the lines. I can, do a lot of inferencing, and when I hear somebody say something and when I see their body language, and I kind of know what's going on. I have that wider view of the world. Certainly, as somebody whose English is not the first language, I have empathy for people, and understanding for people who are bilingual, trilingual. I have a funny story about going to get green card renewed in Charleston, South Carolina. I called my husband. I think it was one of the first times I had my cell phone. I called my husband afterwards, and I was like, I felt like I was in a Saturday Night Live skit. I've never felt this way before. I walked in there. It was a small room. There's probably 50 people all waiting for their turn. And the person helping all these 50 foreigners just spoke louder and louder and louder, thinking they would understand her better. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. There was no, it's just like that's not how this works. When
Yeah.
somebody doesn't understand what you're saying, doesn't mean you got to go louder. It means you have to use easier words and maybe slow down what you're saying and ask some questions and then stop and listen. And so those are the life skills that have helped me in teaching social media and going out there in the world and meeting with people who might be new to the US like me, or might be new to the business world because I've been in their shoes.
Or
and
both.
I think that's really, or both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. And I think that's another really interesting thing that you bring up, which is empathy and like naivete. I never knew how to pronounce that word properly without sounding like a dork, but being naive and having empathy, and how like at some like I don't know if you can have empathy before you kind of push through that wall of being naive and learning, right? And sometimes that learning is painful. Sometimes it is less painful. But I think there's usually, some stumbles and some falls. And then because of it, because you know what it's like to be that person in the room who doesn't understand, is not where you feel like you need to be or where other people feel like you need to be. And once you have been through that and come up with your own way to cope and to learn, sometimes you can turn around and teach others. At the very least, you have that empathy. And so, I don't know, how do you see that show up in your business right now? Like, how do you think that that's impacted you and what you're doing?
Yeah. So I'm a social media strategist, and so I do content marketing, and I really mainly at this point work with CEOs, founders who have all this expert knowledge and it's in their head. And a lot of them are introverts or don't want the spotlight. They have a team. And so I'm not saying hiding, but they're kind of hiding behind their brand. And they should be, shining a spotlight on themselves, and they don't know how, they don't necessarily want to. So my sweet spot is being their friend, holding their hand, and getting that information out of their brain, whatever works for them. So with some of them, it means we can do a Zoom. And I ask you questions, you answer them, and voila, I have video that I can repurpose. Sometimes it's, can I read the book you wrote? And then, maybe listen to the Kindle version. And now I understand you better. So now I can ask you certain questions about your business and getting that expertise out. And if you don't want to be on video, maybe we can do quotes, or maybe I can do a faceless video, right? So getting that information out of them is really what's helped me, and not pushing them to do video just because I think video is best. I think that's that empathy piece there, where you've got to do one. You've got to either do a video, you got to do a podcast, or you got to write a blog. I mean, that's a long form piece of content that I can create hundreds of pieces of content with. So as the content manager, I'm going to tell you, you want to work with me, we got to do one. And most of them start with a blog, and then graduate to either a podcast or doing video. And yes, more and more are saying, okay, I'll dip my toe into the video. And I always say, I'll hold your hand. I'll go with you on video. I'll cut myself out, but I'll do it with you. Right. So I think that is where that has helped me, because I always wished for somebody to hold my hand, and that wasn't always possible. So being able to provide that for them and say, you don't have to do it alone. You can do it alone, but it's scary. So you hire me, I'll help you along. And I think that's where that comes in, where my learning has allowed me to be a little more flexible there than some other, content managers might be, or agency owners, where you just have to do this. No, there's different ways to skin a cat, right? You don't have to do this. If you're not comfortable, I'm not pushing you to do something that you're not going to stick with because you don't like it or it makes you uncomfortable.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. So the thing that got me right in the feels was you're doing a lot of hand holding, and you're being their friend, and you're like making it okay, and you're making it safe because that's what you wish you had.
Yeah.
That's huge. I think, one, there's not enough businesses that exist for that reason, to turn around and be the person you wish that you had when you were going through it. businesses that exist for that reason, or at least run that way, they're different. There just are. There are so many that exist because there's a market opportunity and it's seizing it, and it's a framework, it's a solution, it's a nail for a hammer, and because there's a big market opportunity, and you can feel that. But when it's run by someone who is saying, nope, I was there and this is what I wish I had, that makes all the difference. Also, point number 2, I think that something else you said about founders quite often being introverted and not wanting to be on camera and not really knowing how to put themselves front and center, not feeling comfortable putting themselves front and center. I think that's more common than anyone would think. I think we see so many founders that are just all over LinkedIn, just some in a very great and wonderful and helpful way, others in a very self-aggrandizing, self-righteous, arrogant way. Yeah. And I think we see that and it's like, oh, well, that's a founder. Something's wrong with me because I don't, want to go there. And that's not it at all. We just need someone like you who's been there to take them by the hand and say, let's work out something that works for you. Right?
Exactly. And I work mainly with female founders. I have worked with male. I have one male CEO founder right now that I'm working with, and he is definitely more comfortable on video than the women are. Mm-hmm. And, I always tell the women, you don't have to watch your own videos. I am at the point where I edit my own videos and I put them on LinkedIn. And sometimes I was like, I'm not going to look for 24 hours. Maybe it did okay. But you just got to get past yourself. And, when we talk about video, most of us will know Mr. Beast. He was quoted at Inbound as saying, make 100 videos and every single time watch the video you make, post it. And then next time improve one thing. I guarantee you after 100 videos, you're going to be ready to just keep going because you learn something new and that's how you improve. And we know this. We apply this everywhere else in our lives. Nobody who could swim knew how to swim when they started swimming, right? Because there was a program and you go and you do certain things and you learn how to be buoyant and you learn how to do the different strokes and you end up swimming because it's a life skill that you need. The same happens with video and social media and getting comfortable with that. If you want to learn the skill, you can get there. Now you can get there by somebody pushing you, pulling you, or throwing you in the deep end and you don't enjoy it and you never want to get in and you go, well, I know how to swim, but I'm never going to do it again. Or you can do it with somebody who is a gentle teacher who forever will change your life about how you feel about it. And you'll now love swimming and you're going to do competitions and, you know that if somebody falls in the water, you can rescue them, right? Yeah. That's the kind of teacher I want to be. I don't want to be the one that stands behind you and says, oh, we're going to do this. And then secretly pushes you in and laugh, which there are people out there like that too.
Oh,
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. So yeah, I definitely am the teacher who I wish I had had. And my children will tell you, I over-explain everything and I over-communicate everything. But there's plenty of times that I have had to, quote unquote, rescue them because they said, oh, Mom, I know what I'm doing. And then they didn't. So, I like the communication. I like the, helping people out. There was a lot of growing up to do after I stayed in this country, after I got married. And there was a lot of growing up to do. And I just didn't have another adult around to help me. I didn't have anybody around. So,
now you get to be that person.
Yes, exactly.
I always say too, like, I find myself saying this to my kids a lot. Like, you have to remember, like, there was a moment that Michael Phelps didn't know how to swim. Like, there was a first time that he got in the pool. There was a, pick your Mr. Beast. There was a first time he hit record. There was a first time that, pick your favorite vocalist that they ever sang into a microphone, and it all depends on your goals. If you're learning to swim for safety, that's very different than if you want to be the next Michael Phelps. And regardless, there's always that first time in the pool, and the coach makes all the difference. One thing that you said really quickly, you work with a lot of female founders and women. Do you think, I think this is obviously overgeneralizing, but it's been my experience with female founders that quite often we are told like, oh, who, there's a whole lot of like, who does she think she is? And, oh, like she's in the spotlight. And there's perception that, if a woman is in the spotlight, or if a woman is like the forward, like face of the brand, or getting out there, that it's like icky in some way. Have you found that there are those voices in the heads of the women that you work with? Like, just
yes, and
not
actually,
being comfortable in the spotlight in that way?
yes, and actually it's funny because I just did a LinkedIn Live this week about vertical video, and when you're asking this question, I am reminded that nobody's told me that. So there is a little bit of this when you show up with confidence, people aren't necessarily going to say that to you. Of course, I'm posting my videos in a safe place, which LinkedIn to me is still a safe place. I think if I posted them on TikTok or Instagram, which I haven't done for a reason, I think I would be putting myself out a little bit more vulnerable, I think, as a business owner. Certainly I wouldn't want to put them on my personal profile on Facebook either. But yeah, I think that women, it's like, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't, right? For a lot of this stuff, I haven't necessarily seen it as much with video on LinkedIn. I have seen it with pictures. I'm in a lot of different communities. I love communities. And so I'm in a all Dutch women community on Slack, where they will come in and they will say, well, I had this photo shoot, so I have these beautiful pictures. So instead of not having any pictures with my text only posts, I'm going to post these pictures of myself. So I'm sitting on a stool, I'm leaning over something. And these men come in and go, why are you posting this picture to go with this text? It doesn't, like, why are men even commenting on that? Men are looking at it. So it's just an interesting phenomenon that's happening where men can show themselves whichever way they want, and they feel okay attacking women when they post beautiful. And I'm not saying boudoir type pictures, but fully dressed.
Coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, no, some of these pictures are definitely staged with a photographer. But I have to say, when you show up confident, if somebody came to me and said something about my videos, or I look sleepy, or you look old, or, whatever they wanted to say, I would probably just ignore them. But that's because I have the confidence that I've seen the results of posting these videos and what it's doing in the lives of people. And I finally feel, after 14 years, I've hit that sweet spot. It took me that long. So if you're wondering about video, I've been doing video for 12 years on YouTube. Took a long break. I've done long form video, never really felt comfortable. But July this year, I started getting serious about my video, not my client's video, not my podcast video, not live streaming, just me on a video. It took me that long to be confident enough to say, I can do it. And I think that confidence shines through. And so there is a long way to get there. I don't know, I feel that if women get that feedback, they have to decide for themselves, do I want to look at it? Sometimes the feedback comes because there's a disconnect between how the women act online or how they portray themselves, and then they have this video. I think for me, there is a complete connection in what I say online, who I am in person, and now what I am on video. You seize what you get. And that's kind of what I'm trying to teach on social. You don't have to put on an act. You don't have to script yourself into something that you are not. You don't have to show up in a different way. If you are who you are in person and you're going to show up online like that, what are people going to say? You're you, right? There's nothing much. It's when you try to make yourself bigger or different or to be something that you're not. So I guess the best advice is, if you've gotten that, go stand back and say, am I the same person? Lindsay, if you and I had not met at Inbound and you met me today, but we're going to meet next month, would I be that person that you expect me to be based on the conversation we had today? I think when we meet in Boston at the B2B forum, we're going to be like, yeah, we're besties. We've now met several times, but we know each other because I show up the way I am in person. And I think that's where the disconnect is if people feel that way. But certainly there's a different standard for men versus women. But I do feel like LinkedIn is probably the safest place right now to be on camera, on video, from what I've seen.
I think so too. Okay. So in summary, you have been, in my opinion, I know you didn't say you felt like it was very brave, but I mean, like, leaving your country to go across an ocean and to come to Boston. You said you were 18 at the time. I mean, that's a baby. And like, I'm sure you didn't feel like it at the time, but we're both moms. I mean, that is a child. Yes. And to just start this brand new life and then, and do everything that you did here and establish yourself and become part of a community. And then at 41, like, I'm going to do this brand new thing. And you've done it so well. I mean, you've not only led a business, but you are seen as the expert in so much that is showing up authentically and successfully on social media and leveraging it to meet your goals for your brand and your business. And so when you look at others who are, and I know you do this all the time because it's literally what you do, who are hoping to do so much of the same thing and to specifically use social media, but others that are inspired by the bold moves that you've made in your life, how do you suggest that they borrow your confidence if they're already freaked out by
that's a great question.
Their headwinds?
One of the things that I've always had is somebody in my corner. For a lot of years, it was just my husband, right? He's always been in my corner. He has always believed in me. In business, I've had several masterminds, which I think that if you're listening, watching this, and you feel lonely or you feel like you would need support if you're a solopreneur, masterminds have changed the route of my business in so many ways. I'm currently in a mastermind with 3 other female business owners, and I'm in a growth mastermind with digital marketers that are 50 steps ahead of me, and I feel like the baby. But those are different things that I get out of these 2 masterminds. But the mastermind with the female founders, we go in there and we help each other, as looking at yourself through yourself. It's hard to look through your own lens, right? You can't see, if you're in the jar on the inside, you can't read the label on the outside. So having these other women, you say, I have this problem, how would I solve it? They always look at it in a different way. And so that's helped me grow. It helps me talk to clients, help me get more money. It's helped me be more confident. So a mastermind, I would recommend, something you can start yourself. Don't start paying for a mastermind and do that. Do some research on that. Connect with me if you want to know how I set mine up. That is one way. But if nothing else, then get a bestie who gets you. And it could be anything from getting up at 5 a.m. and going for a run with your bestie and talking through, or, meeting once a week to, sit silently and, both work on writing a book or something. But get that accountability partner on what you want to do. And if nothing else, I've learned that saying things out loud, your family will hold you accountable. And one thing this weekend, and this is just like an epiphany that kind of happened. I'm a runner, been running for 18, 19 years. I've run about 8 or 9 marathons, probably 30 half marathons, a lot of them. I got injured this year, and it really hurt my confidence. I had a stress fracture in my leg, couldn't run. And then when I took the boot off, I could run, but I felt really scared. And so in my head, I have said, you're not a runner anymore. And this weekend, I put myself in a situation. My husband ran a half marathon, and I went and volunteered at the race. That was the best. I put myself in a situation. So if you're worried about who you are, go to a conference, right? Go put yourself in a situation where you're seeing other people. And what it did for me, I saw a 90-year-old man who was running a half marathon, a woman with a baby on her back. I saw a mom and a daughter team. I saw people who are probably 100 pounds overweight. They're all doing either half or full marathon with a smile on their face. And so I went back on Monday morning and I ran. This morning I ran. I'm going out every day now. Sometimes I'll walk, sometimes I ran, but I needed to see that ordinary people do extraordinary things, and you can do, as an ordinary person, you can do it too. So if you're worried, put yourself in a mastermind, in a conference, go out and seek the people who are doing the things you want to do, and that'll give you confidence.
Okay. Mic drop. Nothing else to say. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, Dorien. Where can everybody find you? Where should they look for you and more wisdom from?
All right. Look for me on LinkedIn. You'll see my orange glasses. You'll know it's It's Dorien Morin Van Dam. And then my website is morinmedia.com. It's a play on my last name, so it's more in media. But LinkedIn is a place, and DM me if you listen to this and you're like, hey, I want to connect with you, or I want to learn more, or want to get on video. You need a bestie for video. You can come on my podcast. I cannot tell you how many first timers I've gotten on my podcast that have never been on a podcast, never been on video. And I'm like, just come talk to me. Well, I don't know I'm like, you know your business. I will
and
take,
you know video, so
I know video. I'll just get you on video and get you started. So yeah, I actually have 2 this month that are coming on that have never been on, and I'm like, just let's do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all of your big, bold stories, and I can't wait to see you in Boston soon.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of Actually, I Can. And did you know that actually you can subscribe so that you never miss an episode? Yeah, do it now. And you can also go to actuallyican.show and watch any episode anytime. Thanks for joining.